Today. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a few things to share with you about interviewing, especially for software roles. And then we're gonna have, after these tips, we're gonna have like a breakout session where you guys will get to practice a mock interview with your partner. So let's get right into it. Who am I? I'm a software engineer at Amazon, and I've been to since last year, I've been at like 10 to 15 interviews. So I learned a few things, and I wanted to like share experiences with you about the process. So first of all, the first thing you want to do before the actual interview is to apply. Uh, so there's a couple of ways to apply to companies that I've tried. This is not an exclusive list, but possibly some of the ways you can consider. Some I found to be more effective than others. So recruiters, I found them to be extremely slow and unreliable. CV platforms, I found them to be harvest platforms where recruiters contact you. So also did not find them to be very effective. There's platforms like Cord.co or Hired.com that are kind of quite recent, who connect you directly to companies. I found those to be quite good to get me some interviews. So highly recommend these type of platforms. If you're not on them, try to get on. Um, let's skip referrals. You can apply through company website. That's also cool if you have like a very specific area that you want to work on. It's a good idea to apply directly through the website. And one of the things that's kind of always overlooked is referrals. So I don't see a lot of people leveraging referrals in their application process. I think this is very, very effective way. So always try, guys, to network, leverage things like our Slack channels. We have a job board. Try to meet people in general who work at companies. Ask them if they could refer you to roles if you already know someone at the company, because it usually is much more effective than a lot of these other ways. All right, let's move on. Cool. So specifically, if you're applying to your first role, if you're a junior, you don't have experience yet, maybe you're switching your career from a different career to trying to get into software, which is a lot of people are doing this these days, and it's awesome. If you don't have experience, you can still apply at companies, but at the same time, you can also try to build up your experience without really being hired. How can you do that? If you're involved in some open source projects, maybe you help fix a bug or a feature, you can try to add that as an experience point in your CV. If you want, you can have a friend who's working on some startup. Maybe you can help them with part of their product or their landing page or something like that. And then you can put that as experience. I think having an experience section in your CV is going to make you stand out, especially if you're applying for junior positions. So highly recommend this. And also another point, you could even start your own project. So you can start your own hobby project, something to do anything like I don't know, your Python project, your JavaScript project, your web page project. And that's kind of something you can also put, which would really help your CV stand out. All right, so what if you already have experience, which is our next slide? Yeah, make sure to brag about it. Make sure to mention all the wins you've had. Don't overdo it, but make sure to like give yourself due credit because it will help you also land the job. The CV is your first contact point with whatever company, and they learn about you through it. So make sure to kind of be proud of the work you've done. All right. Now, onto the important part, which is you've landed your interview and you're kind of thinking, what am I going to expect there when I land an interview? So these are the kinds of interviews I've been through in the past. So let's kind of have a look at what each one of them looks like. Go next. All right, online code test is something like you would be invited on HackerRank to do a test. I did not come across a lot of these. I think in Amazon there was one online test that I had to take, and another company I had to take a test. To prepare for these though, I highly recommend LeetCode. If you go to their all problems section, you can sort by frequency, I think. I'm not sure if you need to be premium or not, but the reason I recommend LeetCode is a lot of the questions I get in interviews, I find them on LeetCode either before or after. And also the way they actually list their questions is they get their users to vote on questions that have appeared. So I found LeetCode to be kind of the best in this, in prepping for these. You might prefer HackerRank, but yeah, that's kind of like personal opinion. You can agree or disagree there. All right, what's the next interview we have? So take-home test is one of the worst ones. Why is it the worst? I mean, a lot of developers don't like it because it's very time consuming. So imagine you apply for 5 companies and all of them give you take-home tests, then you would probably spend 5-6 days working on them. So they're good because they give you an opportunity like to take your time, Google around. If you don't know something, you do it. Make sure also take the time you need when you do this test to actually submit like a clean, nice projects. Try to follow best practices. Don't try to rush it because it will, I mean, it won't be in your favor to just rush the project. Also, a lot of things that happen in these take homes is you tend to, so if you pass to the next stage after the take home, let's say they give you an algorithm question, they might ask you follow-ups during the final stage. So always be prepared to kind of defend what you've done and build up on top of it as well. All right, pair programming is what we'll be doing today. So this is also I found to be a nice one. It's a nice balance between like online and not online. It's a bit tricky, so it's nice to actually practice it. In pair programming, you'll be sitting with your interviewer. He'll give you a problem, usually an algorithms problem, but it could be code that he'll ask you questions about, like what's wrong with this code, or do you think you can improve this code? And the point here is always think out loud. So just say, okay, I'm trying to read the code. I can see this is happening in the code. I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z because the interviewer cannot read your mind. So one of the mistakes a lot of interview and a lot of candidates do is they don't like speak up. Also, don't be shy to ask your interviewer if he shows you a piece of code and you're not sure what it does, or maybe there's one part that you don't know about. Don't be shy to like ask, hey, I don't know what this is. You mind telling me? I've come across this just, I think, last week. I've been doing an interview and there was a Python class with the meta field that I wasn't sure what the meta class is. So I asked and he told me, and then I was able to kind of build up on that and say the answer. And guess what? I proceeded to the next round. So a good interviewer shouldn't really judge you if you're not sure about one point, but about like your thought process and how you approach problems. So this is why this is a nice way to kind of interview. What's next? Oh, forgot. Okay. So design patterns, and the next one, system design, is also, I'd say some companies who work with large scale software, they might prefer to see how you do at like organizing code and structuring it. So they might ask you, they might give you a piece of code that already exists that looks like what their product is, and they might say, okay, how would you improve this code, or what's this design pattern? And I think it's a bit hard if you haven't worked with larger projects before, but there are some nice resources to prepare. And the next one, which is related to design patterns, is system design, which is more about, they would give you like a scenario, like, hey, I want to design a video sharing site like YouTube. I want to design a social site like Twitter. So what's the, how would you go about doing this? What would you do? And there's some really nice resources to prep for this as well. I just wrote this course called Grokking the System Design Interview. That was really helpful for me. Yeah, it's mostly about like using heuristics and assumptions and asking the interviewer like how many users, what's the number of active users, etc., to kind of gauge what you would do. So it's a very nice one to look for. Finally, now as a candidate, when you read the question, after you read it, make sure to discuss additional test cases. A lot of times, guys, it happened to me very recently as well. I was asked a question and I actually approached it in the wrong way because I misunderstood the question. And this is easily avoidable if you ask for additional test cases or you write them yourself. So you make sure I understand the problem, I understand what's required. Plan your solution ahead. So try to kind of discuss brute force first, maybe what's the complexity there, how can I improve it, what's another way to do it, etc. Yeah, so the third one is run through brute force and then explain your thoughts. So yeah. Maybe previous slide. Yeah, okay. So does anyone have any questions before we move on to breaking you guys into